Howdy, howdy, and welcome to episode 35 of the Back of the End Zone podcast. I'm Josh Ryzik here with Bryant Koleski. We are pumped for today's episode. Obviously, it's the week after Rivalry week. We've got conference.
He's smiling through the pain.
I am smiling through the pain, even though I'm wearing an Ohio State hoodie right now. But I mean,
what a finish in Auburn and Jordan Hare.
Yeah, crazy finish. What a finish in Ohio State and Michigan in the Big House, unfortunately. But we have also got conference championship games this weekend.
Huge matchup. And in the 14 playoff, I think this is the best in the 14 playoff era. I think this is probably the best lineup of conference championship games we've ever had. I think that probably might be a little bit of a stretch. But you have Oregon and Washington, Georgia and Bama, Louisville and Florida State without Jordan Travis, which will be interesting. You have Oklahoma State, Texas, and then Michigan and Iowa. I mean, that was probably the worst one.
You can say what you want about that. Yeah, exactly. And it obviously is one of the worst ones. I know I saw someone posted on Twitter, and I don't want to go too in-depth in this, but on Twitter someone posted like the DraftKings screenshot of Iowa's over-under for like the first half and the second half, and it was 0.5. They're not expecting Iowa to score at all.
Well, the thing about it is Iowa, the Iowa-Nebraska game last week had the lowest over-under in history, and it hit.
It hit the under,
It was
yes.
like 24 and a half.
Yeah, it was, and it did indeed hit. So we'll see what happens. But we also have a lot more juice to get into this episode, especially with now that Week 13 is officially over, we're going into conference championships. The transfer portal's open.
Coaching changes. I mean, there's a bunch of coaching changes going around.
And a lot of huge ones that I feel like were very unexpected. There's some that were definitely anticipated, some coaches that have been on the hot seat.
Some coaches that are also staying that could also, they'll be probably some of the first ones gone next year if it doesn't work out. But it's definitely.
Yeah, it is interesting. So
we may dive into some NFL too. We haven't talked NFL in a while. We'll see. We'll see. And then we got our pickup segment. We got WKRG's Simone Eli. We've been trying to get her on for weeks, and finally this week she will be our guest picker for championship weekend. Can't thank Simone enough.
Yeah, and I can't wait to have her on and see how she breaks down these games. And I mean, it's conference championship week. So I mean, obviously there's a lot of stuff on the line, and especially for Ohio State or Alabama or Oregon and all these other potential teams to still try and sneak into the playoffs.
And let's be honest, we all want to see chaos happen this weekend. I mean, the playoff committee doesn't. They want it to be a smooth sailing, but we'll see if it happens. You never know. I mean. And this will also be our last week of the guest picker. I mean, if somebody wants to come on and pick bowl games with us, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. Just let us know. But for right now, it's the last week. We want to thank all our guest pickers who have come on this season. I mean, we can't thank them enough.
Seriously, cannot thank them enough. And it's been a blast. It has been an extreme blast.
Yes.
And obviously, right now we have a three-way tie between Blake from last week, Alyssa, my girlfriend, and Blaine from Crane & Company, and they're all 6-1.
And we'll see if Simone can either break the tie, continue the tie, or fall short, and it's just them three still.
Yeah, talk about the chaos that could happen in these games. Let's take a shift and go to the chaos that could happen in our pick'em segments.
I know.
If we have a potential 4-way tie, I mean, we got to figure that out fast. And I mean, we will. Yeah. But stay tuned for our main segment in just a couple seconds.
This episode is going to be a blast.
Yeah, we're going to get right into Rivalry Week and the transfer portal and these head coaching changes. So let's get into it. All right, before we dive right into our main segment, we would like to thank 251 Pool Works, one of our sponsors. They are family-owned and operated. 251 Pool Works offers pool cleaning, maintenance, and repair. They serve the greater Mobile, Baldwin County, and Pensacola areas. And if you're needing any monthly pool cleaning service and or repair, give them a call at 251-978-7736 for the Pool Works. Again, we can't thank them enough. They do a great job. Please hit them up if you have a pool. I mean, it's warming right back up now. This weekend it's supposed to be back up in the 70s.
But it's not going to be really pool weather still. Yeah, but still, the winter season is kind of going by pretty quickly. Soon, before you know it, it will be spring, and the warm weather will come back. And to take this time to get your pool cleaned or repaired. That way you can have it ready.
Yep, exactly.
And we also want to thank our other sponsor, Now Fitness. Now Fitness is a gym and fitness center based in Grove Hill, Alabama. They do personal training, group sessions with CrossFit and other workouts, and they help local athletes train and get in their best shape. Call 269-3065 for more. Can't thank them enough as well. Go hit the gym, and the lights just went out. We apologize for that, but we're going to keep going anyway.
Oh, heck yeah. Why not? And now they're right back in. So, and since we're going right back into it, they just didn't want to hear us. I don't know, but it is what it is. But going right into it,
strobe light in this.
Yeah, seriously. And speaking of strobe lights, something that was kind of like a strobe light was the Ohio State-Michigan game this week. I'm telling you right now, the amount of stress that I had during that game, and I know
took years off your life, huh?
It definitely did. It gave me a couple extra gray hairs, and I'm only 22, so that's saying something.
Well, I'm 2 years old.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, and I know seriously, obviously, it's rivalry week. I think everybody got a couple extra gray hairs this weekend, but going into this Ohio State-Michigan game, man, obviously Ohio State loses 30-24 at Michigan in the Big House. Obviously, it came down to that final drive for Kyle McCord to drive down the field.
McCord.
I was going to say that, but I still respect him as bad as he kind of has played. Not that he's played bad. Kyle McCord's average. And, I mean, he got all Big Ten third team. It was announced today, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, he's a solid quarterback, but he's not the kind of elite caliber that Ohio State fans want.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's not what I necessarily want. Obviously, I think you could put any quarterback that's like a 3-star or higher into that role at Ohio State, and they'll be able to do a good job because of the receiving core around them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the thing about it is even though they lost, I mean, they only lost by 6 points. It's not like it was, well, he still put them in positions to win. And so I think Michigan was just the better team, and they proved that on Saturday.
And those 2 picks were crucial. You think literally there was 3 back-to-back punts to start off the game, and then Ohio State gets the ball back and start to go down the field, and then boom, there's a pick.
J.J. McCarthy, I think J.J. McCarthy had one of his best games of his career.
Oh, I would agree too. And
he made some ridiculous throws that we hadn't seen from him.
That one throw that was the first touchdown following the pick that where Roman Wilson and Denzel Burke were going after it. And yes, I thought it was a pick in the moment. Looking back on it, it was a touchdown. I wish it was a pick. Obviously, it wasn't. I'm not going to be one of those Ohio State fans that's going to try sugarcoating it and saying, oh, it was 100% a pick. No, he caught it. Knee was on the ground. Yes, it's very arguable, but that was a dot. That was a hell of a throw. Yeah. Literally, he threaded the crap out of that needle on that ball. And I'm telling you, like, because looking at it from like how he threw that ball, it's like, how did he get that in there?
Yeah, and I was on the way to Auburn watching that, and I was like, damn, what I hadn't seen that. I don't think I've ever seen that type of throw from him. And he was just in the zone on Saturday, and it showed. And Michigan was just kind of able to gut the game out more than. Like get through the game more than Ohio State, and it came down to the end, like you want a rivalry game to come down to.
Exactly, and I mean on both ends, it was a it was a dogfight. Like in all honesty, and I mean obviously Michigan dominated time of possession, and after Zinter, their offensive lineman got hurt. I think that's what gave them the momentum because the second, I don't know if you were watching that part, I know you were driving to Auburn, but the second Zinter got hurt, the very following play, Blake Corum had like a 32-yard rushing touchdown. And they had all of the momentum in the world that they needed at that point. They were home, and that was the game changer right there. Once he got hurt, Ohio State couldn't do diddly, and as good as our defense has been all year long, they could not stop the run in the second half. They couldn't stop anything in the second half, and the offense couldn't get anything rolling as much too, and it came down to the point where there was not enough time left on the clock. We drove down the field, had a phenomenal drive towards the end there, and then came up just short on that Kyle McCord pick. And it's also because the offensive line couldn't block for him too, but that's how it is. Obviously, I'm upset. I'm still kind of hoping that Ohio State can get into the playoff, obviously, as any fan would be hoping. At the same time, I still don't necessarily think that we deserve it because of this loss.
And it's hard. And now, if the absolute chaos scenario that happens where Ohio State can get back in it, where I think it's like if
Washington would need to win.
Washington
would need to win, and then Florida State would need to lose.
Florida State and Texas would need to lose. Bama would need to lose, and then it's kind of. All right, who's that 4th seed? And so it probably is Ohio State. So there is still a chance. But you want to talk about finishes? The Iron Bowl had probably, other than the kick six, probably one of the best finishes in its history. And
I think that might be better than the kick six. In all honesty,
I don't know.
The kick six was crazy, but you're talking about 4th and 31 and a catch like that. Yeah. The kick six is phenomenal, but that was.
Hold on now, a 4th and goal from the 31.
Exactly.
Auburn fans will make sure you know that. So But anyway, yeah, it was just crazy. Like, and I was sitting in the stands, and I think Auburn fans would agree with me. Like, the play call for the defense on that one play was just, I don't understand why you rush to. I get why you put a spy, but I don't think Milroe's a threat to run in that situation.
Exactly. 4th and 31.
Is he going to get 31 yards? Probably not.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if you have defensive backs covering the goal line anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
He's bound to get tackled.
Yeah.
And so you rush to and you set a spy. And so you give him all day to throw. He could have sat back there and like got a pedicure, manicure, whatever he wanted before he threw that ball. He had that much time. It was 7 seconds, and the corners. You can't. It's hard to cover for somebody for that much. And so finally,
it is.
When he saw the one-on-one matchup on the outside, it happened how it happened.
Yeah, it did happen. And I mean, Isaiah Bond had all the time in the world to get open. And I mean, you look at that side, obviously had one corner on him. There wasn't anybody else, nearby, essentially. The closest guy was like 10, 15 yards away. And that's what it came down to. Isaiah Bond won the one-on-one.
People don't understand how hard of a throw that was to make. To put it like right there.
Right on the money, right in the back of the end zone, out of bounds, where he was still able to
end zone.
Exactly. Literally, and they said that too in the game. I was like, they're giving us a shout out. But
just the way that happened. But Auburn had Allen on the ropes once again, and Jordan Hare. It's like the same thing 2 years ago. Bryce Young leads a 97-yard drive to send it overtime.
Didn't it go to double overtime that game too?
4 overtimes. Okay. And so I know it's gut-wrenching for Auburn fans, but but Auburn did things that I didn't think they were going to be able to do. I didn't think they were going to be able to do was run the football. They had 244 yards rushing. Bama had 192, but Jarquez Hunter and Damari Austin both had over 80 yards rushing. Peyton Thorne had another 50-something yards rushing, and he ran the ball well when he needed to. Now 5 of 16 of passing, 91 yards. It is what it is, but Auburn made the plays when they need to. They were able to get to Jalen Milroe a couple times. They were able to force him to make some questionable decisions, like they were the 2 times where he went over the line of scrimmage and threw the ball. One called back a touchdown, and then the other one created the 4th and 31. And so, and I think we both agree. Me and Alabama fans and Auburn fans, the officiating was horrible in this game. Like it was god awful on both sides. They missed a face mask against Alabama early in the game. Then they missed a huge call where Burton was in bounds. He was clearly in bounds, and they call him out. It was just awful.
I think it goes for all officiating, though. Not even just like college football lately. Even in the NFL has been really bad. But I think more recently this year in particular, there has been some horrible calls, and I'm and everybody continues to say it. Refs need to be held accountable.
Yes.
They need to either get fined or have post-game press conferences. I don't know what it is, but it's there have been some awful calls that are potentially game-changing too.
And I don't, Auburn's biggest blunder of the night, and it really wasn't even giving up the touchdown on 4th and 31. It was the muffed punt before that. Okay, if you catch that punt, more than likely the game is over. You win 24-20. I think Auburn's able to run the clock out, run the ball, and run the clock out. But it was supposed to. Their regular punt returner is Keontae Scott. The one that was out there that muffed the punt was Coy Moore. They both wear the number 0. Apparently, Coy Moore went into the game instead of Keontae Scott, and he was the one who muffed the punt. Well, Hughes said in the press conference he didn't know who was out there. He didn't know who was out there catching a punt to pretty much end the game. And then he muffs the punt. That's on coaching. I don't know if somebody didn't let Hugh know that he was out there, or maybe Keontae Scott took himself out because he was hurt, and just nobody communicated with Hugh Freeze. But somebody has got to communicate. Hey, a backup punt returner is in, and really ain't got to catch it. Just let it fall. Let it fall and let the other team field it. You ain't got to. It's not really anything you got to do. You ain't really got to catch it. And so that was the biggest blunder of the night to me for Auburn. And then late in the game, when they got away from the run a little bit, and that was a big thing. But other than that, I think, I don't know. It was just. First of all, it was an incredible atmosphere. I give Jordan Hare and the Auburn fans all the props in the world.
Oh yeah, easily. And they always have an atmosphere like that too. And I mean, other than the week prior against New Mexico State, but I mean, they really brought it.
Yeah, and I was there too. And so, and real quick, I got a funny story about Isaiah Bond, like ironically being the one to catch it. So before the game, or me and my friend that went, when we first got to Auburn and we were walking towards the stadium, we were stopped at a red light, fixing to cross, crosswalk, and there was these two Auburn guys that came up, and I was wearing my Isaiah Bond jersey, and they asked me who Isaiah Bond was, and I said he's a receiver for our team. He's a sophomore, he starts, and they're like, does he play a lot? I'm like, yeah, he starts, and they're like, well, I've never heard of him. We're going to lock him down tonight. And I would have paid an insane amount of money to have seen those two guys after the game and be like, you know who he is now.
Yeah, literally. And that's actually hilarious. But you never even told me that, so that's good. But,
I saved it for this.
Yeah, crazy game. But I mean, aside from rivalry week though, now coaching changes, man. It's starting off like, I think, not that it was a crazy thing, but obviously there was the buyout at Texas A&M with Jimbo Fisher.
$76 million.
$76 million. Everyone wondering who's going to come in. And, of course, Mike Elko back at A&M after being the defensive coordinator under Jimbo Fisher there.
Well, what's funny about that is I think Saturday night they were about to hire Mark Stoops. And then, it came out that they were set to hire Mark Stoops. And the fan base on Twitter just erupted. Like they did not want that.
A lot of A&M fans wanted Ryan Day too, and I was like,
there was a
lot of stuff around
especially that. Especially after the game on Saturday.
Yeah, and I was like, that's not going to happen.
Well, then it comes out Sunday morning, or no, later Saturday night that Stoops is going to stay, and I guess they decided to cut that, and then Sunday afternoon or Sunday afternoon or either Monday they hire Mike Elko. I think that was the correct hire. If you couldn't land Urban Meyer or Ryan Day, I think that was the correct hire because he knows what to expect. He knows what the expectations are, and he's been there before.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at it. Mike Elko has been successful at Duke, and I mean, you think he was only there for 2 seasons? But in the 2 seasons he was there, went 16-9. I think he only went 7-5 this year, but he started off 4-0, and then Riley Leonard got
6-1.
Yeah,
too,
and then Riley Leonard got hurt, and that was the game changer for them, obviously. And when Riley Leonard got hurt, they lost to Notre Dame, and then there was not a downfall, but their season kind of not fell apart. But after Riley Leonard was that team's leader. He really was, and the good thing though is you think Mike Elko is coming back to A&M. And in his last 2 seasons at A&M, under Jimbo Fisher as the defensive coordinator, he had a top 3 defense in the SEC his last 2 years there.
Yeah, and so the big thing for him, he'll hire his defensive staff the way he wants it. He'll recruit his defensive players the way he wants it. The biggest thing for him is nailing the offensive coordinator hire and getting that right, because that'll be the telltale sign, because they'll have a great defense, more than likely, because of him. But what they do on offense, and if they can retain some of those offensive players, because there's been some rumbling about Evan Stewart potentially hitting the portal when it opens for everybody else. We'll get into it in just a minute. It's open for grad transfers right now. Next week it'll open for everybody else. But that's really because and they're without Bobby Petrino now because Arkansas just hired him back as their offensive coordinator.
And it's kind of hysterical because looking back. How he got fired when he was at Arkansas after that motorcycle accident and the affair with the 25-year-old. That's hilarious.
Well, I come back to full circle.
And the one picture of him in the neck brace too, and that was coming back around.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, look it up because it is hilarious.
Yeah.
Just looking at the whole.
Most of the college football fans do, but I mean, if you don't look up Bobby Petrino at Arkansas, you'll find out all about it. But Texas A&M is not the only one. Mississippi State, I think, nailed their hire.
Oh, I would agree.
Jeff Levy from Oklahoma, who was offensive coordinator at Oklahoma, and he was offensive coordinator at Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin. Dude can call plays. He can recruit. I think he'll kind of do what for Mississippi State what Josh Heupel has done for Tennessee. Recruit well, get players to buy in, and maybe make some noise when it's not expected. Because I like that hire.
No, I do too. And Oklahoma had a pretty solid year this year too. Obviously they beat Texas. That was their big win. And then after that kind of fell off a little bit, lost to Kansas and a couple other things. But, I mean, stuff like that happens. It is a good hire. It's trending upwards for Mississippi State, I definitely think, especially.
And then Syracuse hires Georgia's defensive coordinator, or Georgia's
defensive back coach.
Defensive back coach, not defensive coordinator. But Syracuse makes a good hire. For the big one to watch here for South fans is Indiana's job has come open, and there's been some rumblings that potentially Kane Womack could potentially go back
to Indiana.
I don't think that's the case. I think he loves it down here in Mobile. I don't think he's ready to take that step back, to the Power 5. I think he loves it here, but we'll see. And there's some other jobs that have come open.
Yeah, I mean, you look. I think one of the bigger ones that's not getting talked about as much is Jonathan Smith going to Michigan State, leaving Oregon State. Obviously had a phenomenal year this year at Oregon State. He leaves Oregon State for Michigan State, obviously going to a more wealthy kind of program, whatever. Expand in a lot of, and the thing though is I was seeing all over Twitter, a lot of Oregon State fans were pissed because you think Jonathan Smith went to Oregon State, played football there, and has coached for them the past since like 2017, however long it's been, and it's like a lot of people are saying will Jonathan Smith be welcomed back to Corvallis if he ever tries going back?
I think so. I mean, you can't blame him because Oregon State fans might be pissed now, but they'll get over it. They're Oregon State. I mean, you can't blame him with the uncertainty that's going on with him, with Oregon State and Washington State now becoming the Pac-2, as you can call it, and they're making scheduling deals with the Mountain West. And so I don't blame him for taking that job.
That's a good hire for Michigan State.
Yeah,
so I mean, obviously you lose Mel Tucker. He's 25-13 the last 2-3 years at Oregon State.
Yeah.
And like obviously,
and if he can win at Oregon State, I feel like he can win.
He can win the Big Ten.
So,
100%. And
now
obviously,
the Big Ten's not getting any easier.
It's definitely not getting any easier. But I mean, he has some familiar foes that he'll be playing too against, because obviously with Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA coming to the Big Ten, he'll have some familiar faces to compete against. But the interesting thing though too is you look at Oregon State, they hired defensive coordinator Trent Bray, who was under Jonathan Smith at Oregon State, and it seemed like, I don't know if you saw the video when Oregon State's athletic director announced to the football team in their big film room about them hiring Trent Bray, and their football team was hyped because prior to them signing him, because obviously when a head coach leaves, all players on the team are automatically eligible to transfer and get automatic eligibility. And Damian Martinez, there was a lot of flirtation about him going to the transfer portal, him leaving Oregon State, and him trying to just go elsewhere. And right after they announced that they were bringing in Trent Bray as the head coach, Damian Martinez went to Twitter and said, "I'm sticking with Oregon State. I'm staying here." And there was a lot of people saying that he was potentially planning on leaving. So that's huge for Oregon State because now they're keeping a lot of players that
they probably would have transferred. But and then not only you have coaches getting fired or leaving, but now you have some teams that probably needed to make a decision, bringing guys back. UCLA, before the season ended, announced they were going to get rid of Chip Kelly at the end of the year. Now they're retaining Chip Kelly. I think they realize that who are you going to hire? And Chip Kelly is still pretty good. I think he'll do well in the Big Ten. It's going to take him probably take him and the other teams that are going in probably a minute to adjust. But
there's a couple other teams though too. It's kind of the same situation.
Arkansas retaining Sam Pittman.
Exactly, but looking at the Big Ten coaching wise, you've got Kirk Ferentz, his son, who's the offensive coordinator. It was announced midseason that he wasn't coming back as the offensive coordinator next year. It was announced 2 weeks ago at Penn State after the loss to Michigan that Mike Yurchik, their offensive coordinator, isn't coming back either.
Yeah.
And so it's and you got to look, Penn State and Iowa are obviously both always known to have pretty solid defenses.
Yeah.
They're both looking for new OCs now, and it's
And one thing that interests me is Florida and Billy Napier, and then Sam Pittman in Arkansas. Those two guys are probably on the hottest of hot seats going into next year, especially Sam Pittman in Arkansas. Billy Napier will be his third year. Sam Pittman, though, will be his fourth or fifth year. And if it seems like Arkansas has only regressed, KJ Jefferson has now entered the portal, which we'll get to in a minute with the transfer portal. But talking about going into next season of coaches on the hot seats, it's got to be those two first. I mean, now a name that I wish was getting more attention, and I think if A&M would have hired Mark Stoops from Kentucky, I think he would have went to Kentucky. It's John Summerall from Troy. I keep bringing him up. I keep bringing him up because what he's built at Troy, went 12-2 last year. Okay, he's 10-2 this year. Probably about to win the Sun Belt for a second straight year. More than likely will win their bowl game, go 12-2 back-to-back years. I don't know how he's not a hot commodity right now. I don't know how more teams are not looking at him. And I think if the Kentucky job had come open, he would have taken it because he played at Kentucky.
Yeah. I mean, there's also lots of talk right now, too. I mean, you probably weren't hearing about this, but just because I'm an Ohio State fan, Jim Knowles, Ohio State's defensive coordinator, who's only been there for 2 years after being the Oklahoma State defensive coordinator, there's lots of talk that he's potentially a top candidate for, say, the Duke position or a lot of these other head coaching vacancies. And we'll see what comes out of that. And a lot of Ohio State fans are like, there's no way he leaves. He's only been in Ohio State for 2 years. But he turned around Ohio State's defense, and it's like a lot of teams are going to want to take a coach like that.
And another name, especially with the Indiana job, Big Ten territory, Tommy Rees, offensive coordinator for Bama, has been kind of talking about that job. But I think he's too young. I don't think he's ready for that, that role yet.
For that either,
but I mean, there's a lot of coaching changes. And with those coaching changes comes the transfer portal.
Yeah, and going back to Indiana really quickly, obviously Tom Allen is out. We talked about this before the episode started. After Tom Allen was fired, 4 out of 5 of Indiana's starting offensive linemen hit the transfer portal.
And they had a receiver, I think.
A starting receiver, And I'm like, that is just, I mean, not that it's like common. And they also, actually, no, never mind, all 5 of their starting offensive linemen. Originally, it was just the 4 hit the transfer portal, I think, like 3 or 4 days ago. And then literally, it was November 27th where the 4, Matthew Bedford, Carter Smith, Khalil Benson, and Zach Carpenter, all hit the portal. And then 2 days later, their other 5th offensive lineman who started, Matthew, like literally they're just losing everybody. And it's like.
And this transfer portal, like, it just opened this week for grad transfers, and you're already seeing it unfold in the chaos and the madness. I mean, first of all, the amount of quarterbacks that are in the portal. I mean, you have Will Howard from Kansas State, Will Rogers from Mississippi State, Tyler Van Dyke from Miami, which the dude had his side note about him. The dude had his chance to transfer to Alabama back in the spring.
Then you got
sorry, buddy, you missed your chance. We got our guy.
But then obviously in the wake of A&M with Elko, then you've got Max Johnson. Then you've got Nate Johnson at Utah, who started off the year in the wake of Cam Rising, and then Bryson Barnes took that position.
Grayson McCall just entered the portal.
Yeah, and then you've got rumors about Cam Ward,
Riley Leonard.
Riley, literally, and it's like all of this stuff.
KJ Jefferson. I mean, there's some serious talent out there. Not only that, but you also got some running backs as well out there. Treshawn Ward from Kansas State, Simeon Price from Mississippi State. Then there's rumors about Travis Etienne's little brother, Trevor Etienne from Florida, hitting the portal.
No, and then even another one that's, I mean, this is a wide receiver, but Raleek Brown from USC. He was the #1 offensive recruit from the class of 2022, and he had like 1 catch this past year. He's hitting the portal, and I'm pretty sure he was a 4-star, ranked like 64th in his class, and I'm like, that's a huge loss for, you think, USC, and
it's already erupted in the madness, and then next week it'll open for everybody else. And it's just going to be interesting to see what happens. There's rumors about Evan Stewart. There's rumors about just all kinds of other players. It's just madness, and I don't know. It's
looking
crazy.
At some of the madness too. It's like obviously Cameron Ward hasn't even hit the transfer portal yet, and now there's everybody arguing about the whole tampering thing because obviously Ohio State was looking into it.
It's going on.
Yeah, it is going on, and the thing is, it's going to happen either way. Even with Riley Leonard right now, every quarterback that's not in yet that has a potential to be in it, there's teams that are going to tamper with it and try and flirt around and.
And I think Jake Crane said this on a show this week. I have a problem with it being conference, like in between, like interconference, like especially like rivals. Like it would rub me the wrong way if if a Bama player transferred to Auburn or vice versa, and don't get me wrong, it's already happened. Bama has gotten players from Georgia like Jermaine Burton and Dresden Marshall. Then they had Eli Ricks from LSU a year ago, and same thing with if Evan Stewart hits the portal, there's rumors that Bama is the destination. Don't get me wrong, and my team has benefited from it, and so a lot of other teams will benefit from it. it's just I think
It's unfortunate because it is like, and a lot of people have always said, and I've kind of agreed with it too. Obviously, like the transfer portal is a good thing, but to an extent, there are players that abuse the living crap out of it and will just enter the portal.
Take Martell for the quarterback from Ohio State.
Yeah, exactly.
Like so many times.
There's actually an Ohio State pass rusher Omari Abar, who entered the transfer portal, or there's talks about him entering the transfer portal. I don't think he officially did yet, but this was his second year at Ohio State. He was a 5-star back in high school, and honestly, I want him gone because literally last year after we lost the game against Michigan, the second year in a row last year, he was talking crap on Twitter. And he was like talking crap about his own team because he wasn't playing. And I mean, like, when you're at a prestigious school like Ohio State, obviously you're not going to start. Like, Ohio State never really ever starts freshmen. And it's very rare.
I think the thing about the transfer portal is there has to be some limitations. Because also, I think it hurts recruiting as well, like high school recruiting.
Yeah.
Because these high school recruits want their chance as well to play and whatnot. When you got these guys that are transferring, especially these guys that are getting extra eligibility because of the COVID year, and guys are in their fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, hell, some of them ninth year of college football because of that COVID year and waiver rules and stuff like that. Like, what is it going to do to high school recruiting? So, the transfer portal is a good thing, but it is absolute chaos right now. And I think if there's not something done to limit, like whether it's portal windows or how much time they have to make decisions, or what criteria meets entering the portal. If there's not something done to limit it and to limit it's gonna get worse and worse and worse each year, and it's eventually free. It's essentially free agency.
Yeah, it is. But so I have a quick question for you though. So obviously I'm kind of throwing you off a little bit, but Colorado with all these decommits and potential a lot of more transfers coming in this year. Colorado this year. Does Deion take over or under 25.5 transfers? Over or under 25.5? Because I could see it going over again, kind of like last year, but it really depends.
It needs depth. So the thing about it is Deion needs to try, and not only does he need to get into the portal for some positions and some depth, but he also needs to go and recruit his own players as well.
100%.
And he's been somewhat doing that.
But he's lost a lot now.
It's his first year, and now he's losing some decommits. He lost a quarterback commit.
He lost back-to-back 2024 and 2025. He lost commits for both classes.
And so I don't know, something's going on at Colorado. I don't know what it is. I think maybe some of the after the year they've had, and a lot of the media attention that Colorado has garnered, and a lot of failed hype, I guess, but it was just Deion's first year. I don't think, you sound the alarm right now. I think Colorado will get better, and I think, somebody tweeted that he just took the job to get his sons to a top Power 5 program, and people are figuring out that maybe he's not all that, but I don't know.
I mean, we'll see. I don't know either. I think Deion's definitely on the come up, and he's definitely turned around in Colorado. But
it's just his first year.
Yeah, it is his first year.
But he needs to. I think he needs to get some of the media attention off. I think he needs to get some of that off, and I think there needs to be. I don't know. There's got to be something.
There's got to be some sort of limitation. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean,
he's got to get his players to buy in. That's the main thing. He's got to recruit. He's got to, and now whether if Colorado's giving him the resources to do that, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what kind of what Colorado has, in their facilities or their resources that's helping Deion recruit or get players. We'll see. I mean, it's not just Colorado. I mean, Michigan State's having a mass exodus right now. Arkansas is. Indiana. A lot of these teams with uncertainty at coaching or uncertainty going into next year. They're having some transfers. I mean, and some transfers out, and I don't know. It's
definitely interesting.
Florida's going to have a mass exodus because they just lost two of their best recruiters.
I mean, so, I don't even really know what to say, but I mean, I think that's kind of all I got to say about college football.
Yeah.
But man, let me get into some NFL talk real quick because.
How about the Broncos?
No, real quick.
Oh man.
I talked to Bryant about this before the episode started. It was announced today. Obviously, the podcast is coming out later than when we're talking about this, but Aaron Rodgers his practice window has officially opened up.
He's designated from IR.
He could be playing in 3 weeks.
Maybe.
In 3 weeks, he could potentially be playing for the Jets. And
Those darkness retreats and immunizations are working.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what he's doing. Obviously, when you have millions of dollars, you have a lot better athletic trainers and a lot better. You have better chances of recovering faster, I guess, and which might not necessarily be a good thing. But I was telling Brian, there is a chance that if Aaron Rodgers comes back and stands out and kind of turns the Jets around a little bit, which is very unlikely, but if he does and doesn't get hurt again, he's a potential candidate for comeback player of the year.
I don't know, because comeback player of the year, is based on what happened last year, and you come back this year and you play for probably most of the season and you have success. I would think right now, and this is not my bias talking, I think Russell Wilson is up there, the leading candidate besides DeMar Hamlin.
They also have Tua up there. Betting odds wise, yeah, they have Tua's plus 300, Russ is plus 1,000, DeMar Hamlin's negative 200. So DeMar Hamlin obviously has the best odds now.
The thing with DeMar Hamlin though is the man came back from an impossible situation where he pretty much died on the field. He died on the field, came back. I mean, and he's been on the field some this season. I don't know. I mean, I would like to see Russ get it. But I mean, I could see why DeMar Hamlin would get it, but I mean, I don't think Aaron Rodgers would get it just solely because I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just don't.
I don't know either.
He only played for like 2 weeks, and if the Jets don't make the playoffs, then I don't think they're making the playoffs because in 3 weeks, I mean, I don't know who the Jets have on their schedule, but Tim Boyle couldn't get it done against Miami, and I don't know. I mean, let me look at the Jets schedule here. I mean, I don't have it right in front of me, but let's see what the Jets got this week. I don't freaking know. Hold on, people.
They might have a bye this week, but that aside, real quick, going into did you find it or no?
Hold on, I'm blind.
Well, now
the Falcons.
The Falcons?
Yeah, they could probably beat the Falcons, but the Falcons are actually leading the division right now. Let's see. The next 3 weeks, they have the Falcons, the Texans, and the Dolphins again. So I don't think they're making the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know either. But, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens when Aaron Rodgers comes back. But going over to MVP odds, I think it is crap that C.J. Stroud is not as high up in the conversation
as he is. It's because he's a rookie.
It is because he's a rookie, but looking at stats and player, not even just stats, because it's not just about stats. Looking at the way that this kid is playing as a rookie, you can't tell me that he is not top 3 right now. Betting odds right now, Jalen Hurts has the best odds. Then it's Pat Mahomes. Then it's Lamar Jackson. C.J. Stroud is 7th on the list. And
I mean, that's still pretty good.
That's good, but you got to think he's got Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Lamar, Tua. All those guys are ahead of him. And I think C.J. Stroud has been better than Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott. I think maybe even Tua.
I don't know. I mean, I just think the knock on him is that he's a rookie.
I would agree, but if he takes the Texans to the playoffs, I think he deserves a clear shot at that MVP award.
He probably does, but right now, I mean, you can't deny what Jalen Hurts has been doing. You can't deny what Tua has been doing.
I agree. You
can't deny what Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott's been on the tear lately. I mean, it's hard. I mean, he's definitely going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. There's no doubt about that as of right now. But I just think it's a tall task for a rookie. I don't think a rookie's ever won the MVP award.
The last rookie that won the MVP award was Jim Brown, the one and only rookie to ever win it. That was in like the 60s.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's hard for a rookie to win that award.
It is very difficult, but I mean,
there is a case for him. I'm not going to lie.
After the Texans lost last week to the Jaguars, I think they just dropped out of the playoff picture. They're like the first team in the hunt because now they are 6-5. But I mean, you got to think, looking at the rest of their schedule, they do have a clear chance. They play the Jets. Yeah. They play the Jets in a couple weeks. Then they play the Titans. Then they play the Browns. Then they play the Titans again. Then they play the Colts. They have a chance. They could potentially win out. Yeah. And you think if they win out, or say they even go 4-5.
Guess who they play this weekend, buddy? The
Broncos,
the hottest team in the NFL right now. So switching over to the Broncos. And I'm going to talk about this because they are my favorite team in the NFL, and they were 1-5 to start out the year, and I was dead inside, and I was claiming that they should tank and everything like that. And
I want Caleb Williams. That was all I kept hearing. For weeks.
I mean, you're 1-5. I mean, what else do you want me to say? I mean, but anyway, now they've won 5 straight, and not only was it 5 straight against mediocre teams. I mean, they won 5. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Bills. They beat the Pastronaut, Josh Dobbs. They beat Jordan Love, and they beat. Who they played last week? They played the Browns. One of the best defenses of football. And so,
they have been stepping up. They have.
You're finally starting to see Russ is getting back, to what we've seen from him. He's not taking as many sacks. He's using his legs when he needs to. He's giving it to his playmakers, and you're seeing this marriage between Russell Wilson and Sean Payton finally start to kind of mesh. They're finally starting to get it. I think the players are starting to buy in now to what Sean Payton is trying to sell them. And I just think, I mean, if they win this weekend, they're 7-5, and their playoff chances are up to 50%. And now I'm trying not to get too hopeful because that's the moment when they rip my heart out. But I mean, I'm excited for this team. Like they've shown, and the defense has gotten much better too. I mean, the defense after giving up 70 points to the Dolphins. I mean,
they've completely turned
what they've been
around,
able to do is just incredible. So I mean, I'm excited for my Broncos. I mean,
whatever you say, but
I issued my Russell Wilson apology. So
yeah, I know you did, but
you should too.
I never bashed him. I never bashed him. But I say that's enough to talk about your favorite NFL team. In a couple minutes, we're going to get into your favorite college football team and get into these college football championship pick'em games
and the college football playoff as well. So let's bring on Simone and let's get into these games.
This is going to be good. So let's get right into it. Welcome to our Week 14 college football pick'em segment. This week we have special guest Simone Eli for the conference championship games. And
WKRG sports director. She is phenomenal at what she does.
Appreciate it.
She's been a huge mentor and help to me as somebody who's aspiring to be in her position in a few years. Same thing with Josh. She's come and spoken at our classes a few times. I've interned for her. Maybe do it again sometime soon.
Definitely.
It's definitely been just a great opportunity to get to know you and be friends and learn from you.
Sure.
So.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, guys, and I really appreciate you guys having me on. Bryant has been an awesome intern for us, and I know for other local affiliates as well. So we're super blessed to have him on our staff. And Josh, I know you've done some big things with the podcast, so I'm excited to join you guys. We're championship week. I say the best for last, right?
Yeah, I mean, seriously.
No. I'm excited, and it's going to be a great week of college football.
Had some great games last week. I mean, you had Michigan. You started off with Michigan, Ohio State.
Don't talk about that.
Are you you're an Ohio State fan?
He's an
Are you from Ohio?
No, I'm from Northern Illinois. But
okay.
You went to Bowling Green, though,
yeah,
right?
I did.
Okay.
Did you go to Okay, you went to NIU?
No, I didn't go to NIU.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm from that area.
Oh, I got you. Okay, yeah. When we played at NIU, man, that was rough. It always snowed. It was rough.
So Josh is smiling through the tears. I'm extremely happy. I was able to go to the Iron Bowl and Jordan Hare.
Yeah.
What an amazing atmosphere.
Crazy.
I was shocked at the end.
Yeah.
It was just.
I mean, everybody was. My husband is an Auburn fan, and when it was 4th and 31, and there was a timeout called or breaking action, whatever, I looked at him and I said, "Do you think Auburn's going to rush the field?" And he, when they win, and he looked at me and he said, "All I know is that there's one play left, so can you please just save that?" And I'm like, whatever. It's 4th and 31.
When I was in the stands, they were getting ready to. You could see him kind of get on the edge of the walls, and then it just like a needle popping a balloon. It just all.
Yeah, that was brutal.
I mean, I felt like I was stunned from my couch in Irvington, Alabama. I can't imagine what it was like to actually be in Jordan Hare and to witness that and just wow, what an unbelievable atmosphere for college football.
And now we get to follow it up with some great games this weekend.
Yep.
Probably with the last year of the 14 playoff, probably couldn't ask for a better selection the committee has.
Yep.
The games that they have to choose from this weekend, so it's going to be
chaos.
It will be chaos. But so this week we're going to open up the first couple of games for this week's slate with some Group of 5 college football championship games. Obviously, starting off with the Conference USA, and this year is an interesting year for the Conference USA championship game. Obviously, they had 6 teams leave the conference to go to the American Athletic Conference before the season started, and the 2 teams playing in the championship game are 2 teams that weren't in this conference last year between New Mexico State and Liberty.
Yeah.
Obviously, Liberty's in the top 25. They're 25th right now. Might move up maybe a little bit in the final rankings. And you have New Mexico State beat Auburn 2 weeks ago at Auburn, completely demolished them. And then last week, barely squeaked by Jacksonville State. And, I mean, looking at this from a perspective of who I think is going to win, I think Liberty takes this one with ease. Right now, they're second in all of college football in rushing yards per game with like 295 rushing yards per game. I think they're going to dominate on the ground. They're going to start off early, and they're at home. So I think Liberty takes this one by at least 2 scores.
Yeah, I'm a huge Jamie Chadwell fan. When he was at Coastal Carolina, he had great years there. You know, Coach Grayson McCall, and then now he takes over at Liberty after Hugh Freeze takes the Auburn job. And it seems they, you know, no knock on Hugh Freeze, he's a great coach, but it seems like they had gotten slightly better since he left. And then New Mexico State has beaten Liberty in recent years. I like Liberty here, though, at home. They'll finish undefeated and potentially have a New Year's 6 bid.
Yeah, I think that when you play conference championship games at home, that there's always obviously an advantage to that. I know we'll talk about Troy in a moment, but I really think that plays to, of course, the team that is hosting the game. And so I have to agree. I would go with Liberty here. I will say that New Mexico State, you have to give them credit where it's due for what they've been able to do in the last couple of weeks of college football.
Exactly.
You know, that JSU game was more of a challenge than maybe people expected coming off the Auburn game, but it's one of those where when you have such a huge emotional high and a huge emotional win, you have to settle yourself back down to go into the next week. And so I think it's going to be a close battle. I don't think it'll be a game with ease necessarily for Liberty, but I do think that they'll end up winning, staying within the top 25, and then we'll see if they're the group of 5, highest ranked team, or Tulane's in the mix as well. And so we'll see what that looks like.
Yeah, most definitely. And staying in the group of 5, obviously the conference that South is in. Unfortunately, South didn't make it this far, but going to the Sun Belt, we have App State going to Troy to take them on for the Sun Belt Conference Championship game. And App State's kind of turned around their season the last couple of weeks too. Obviously 8-4 now, 6-2 in conference. Troy, on the other hand, 10-2, 7-1 in conference. But App State 2.5 weeks ago took on JMU at JMU and beat them in overtime by 3. That was a huge game for App State, in my opinion. I mean, in everybody's opinion. But Jose Aguilar, their quarterback, too, has also kind of flipped the script for App State. Offensively, App State's usually more of like a run-heavy team, and he's completely flipped that script, done well as a passer this year. But I mean, this is an interesting. Right now, I still don't even really know who I want to take. Troy is home, which is huge for them, but App State has been rolling. And I mean, Kamani Vidal, the running back for Troy, has been really good all year. Troy's defense has been pretty consistent. Yeah. I think Troy wins this one at home too. I'm sticking with the home teams for the Group of 5 conference championship games to win. Taking Troy at home.
Yeah, App State's kind of like the New Mexico State of the Sun Belt right now. They've won some pretty big games late in the season. They handed JMU their only loss of the season, especially when game day was there. That was pretty cool to see. Troy, though, and we were talking before the podcast, I don't know how Troy isn't ranked. What John Sumrall has done at Troy, 10-2 the last 2 years, probably going to win a second a Sun Belt title in 2 years, back-to-back years. And I don't see how he's not a hot commodity in the coaching carousel right now. I think he is. He might be. I haven't seen his name mentioned that much, but it definitely should be. And so I like Troy here. And these two teams have a little bit of a history. When before the Sun Belt expanded, Troy was in that region with App State, and they played every year. And then last year when they played each other, App State handed Troy one of their only losses on a Hail Mary. Yeah. And so there's a little bit of, animosity between these teams, but I like Troy at home.
I like Troy. The App State win over JMU doesn't do a lot for me just because that was right on the heels of JMU figuring out that, were they going to be could they win the conference championship? Could they be in a bowl game? And they knew going into this whole deal 2 years ago that they were going to have, whatever the NCAA rule that keeps them out of a bowl season. But I think they're going to be in the postseason. I think I saw that the other day. So good for JMU, no doubt about it. But I don't know. I think that Troy right now is rolling, and like I said a moment ago, I think there's a lot to hosting a conference championship game. Yep. I think that they have all the momentum on their side, which is huge when it comes to going into the postseason, is where are you today? And not to discredit what App State's done. They're unbelievably well coached. But I got to roll with the Trojans here. I think that they're just destined to win it again. I mean, they were picked to win it again right off the top in the beginning of the year when we were at media days. And I just think that Sumrall really has this program where he wants to, right before he ends up going and taking like an SEC job or somewhere in the Power 5 at some point.
Yeah, most definitely. And now closing out Group of 5, we're jumping straight into the Big 12 Conference Championship game. Obviously, number 20, Oklahoma State, going to number 7 Texas. This is Texas's first time in the Big 12 championship game since 2018.
Yeah.
So big game for them, obviously, and obviously they don't have Jonathan Brooks at running back. Their other backup running backs have stepped up big. But then you look at Oklahoma State and what they've done after losing to South Alabama in week 3.
What a weird year.
And yeah, seriously weird year. And I mean, Brian and I talked about this weeks ago. Like, Ollie Gordon has been unstoppable all year.
He was at one time a Heisman candidate.
Exactly. And after they lost to South Alabama, I think in the 6 games after that, he rushed for over like 1,300 yards, handful of touchdowns. He's had a great year, then got shut down by UCF. I think the difference maker of this game is that Texas's defensive line is, I think, one of the best defensive lines that Oklahoma State has faced all year. And I think that's what it comes down to, because obviously Oklahoma State is very run heavy. They love to give it to Ollie Gordon all the time. And I think that Texas steps up and they win when it matters most, especially trying to keep their playoff hopes alive here. I think Oklahoma State does come close, but I think Texas comes out on top and gets the W.
As a Bama fan, this is one I need Texas to lose, but I don't see it here because while Ollie Gordon has been great all year, and while Oklahoma State has figured out a way to maneuver this year and beat Oklahoma, go to the Big 12 title game, they were down early against BYU. They rallied back in second and double overtime and won that game to go to the Big 12 title game. What a incredible turnaround. But I just think Texas has too much. I don't know if Alan Bowman, the quarterback, can make enough plays through the air because Texas secondary is pretty good as well. And I think the win against the blowout against Texas Tech, since the Bama game, they hadn't played up to their potential. It seemed like they were playing down to opponents more than they were playing to their potential. Mm-hmm. But then against Texas Tech, it seemed like they got that confidence back, and it was a huge momentum win for them. Yeah. So I like the Longhorns here to take the Big 12 title in their last year of the Big 12.
I think that, both teams are obviously really well coached, and when you get into this part of the season, that really plays a big role in winning the big game and putting yourself in a position to go be a playoff contender. I think that Steve Sarkisian knows what it's like to be in the situation, having been a coordinator for Alabama and done really well there, and also, just coaching at a high level throughout different schools. I like Texas in this game. I don't think that necessarily means, I know we'll get to this, that they're going to be a playoff team. Yeah. I think that it keeps their playoff dreams alive, of course, because there's not going to be a 2-loss team, like especially this year. We've never had it before, but there's not going to be a 2-loss team in the playoff. We know that. So far, the committee has shown that they are going to really factor in the head-to-head, and that Texas's win over Alabama plays a huge role in them kind of being that roadblock for Alabama really moving up into the playoff rankings the last few weeks, or ever really, since they started coming out. But that doesn't mean that the committee can't just decide to flip the script and do what they want to do. I mean, that's why they sit in there and they get to decide, because that's why they were hired to do that. And so I know where I'm getting ahead of myself, but I do like Texas in this game, and we'll see how it goes. But I think that will just add to the chaos of what things could look like based on the SEC title game as well.
Yeah, and another game coming up next, the ACC title game between number 10 Louisville and number 4 Florida State. This game has big playoff implications too. Obviously, I think most of America does not want Florida State in, especially without Jordan Travis there. Yeah. And I mean, very interesting situation, especially with Roadmaker. And last week, only throwing for 134 yards, 12 for 25. That was kind of expected against Florida. They still won, came out on top. But the big thing for me is that we talked about it last week in last week's pick, and we're like, all right, will Tate Roadmaker still be able to get it done? We're like, yes, he will. He has Keon Coleman. He has Johnny Wilson. But the thing is, you look at it, Keon Coleman last week only had 1 reception for like 34 yards the whole entire game. And we thought that he was going to get the ball a lot more than he did against Florida. And for this game, it's like, yeah, Louisville lost last week to Kentucky. That was a heartbreaking loss. But I think right now, Louisville has the momentum, especially with Florida State, no Jordan Travis. This is Louisville's first ACC Championship game, too, ever. And I think Louisville comes up with the upset. Florida State's playoff hopes are gone.
I think you're picking with emotions.
I kind of am.
He's absolutely picking with emotions. Listen, I'm gonna go before you in this one. I'm gonna go with Florida State in this game, and here's the deal: you can't keep an undefeated Florida State team out of the playoffs. Period.
That is true.
You can't. And
I agree.
There's a reason. I mean, listen, it shapes up how it shapes up. If Florida State wins this game and wins the ACC title, Jordan Travis or not, which we know it's not, they're gonna be in the playoffs, and they deserve to be in the playoffs. It shouldn't even be a question. If you're undefeated and you win a Power 5 conference, I mean, yeah, we've seen it before where teams have been, like, you look back at 2017, Alabama getting in and Ohio State, I mean, that was big drama and all that, but I think Florida State wins this game. I think that you are absolutely picking on what you want to see in the playoffs rather than and here's the deal about when it comes to to rivalry games like the Florida game. You can throw all that into the trash. Just same thing with Alabama and Auburn. Like, it doesn't matter what happened last week. It only matters in terms of the record. Did you win or did you not? It doesn't matter in terms of what the game looked like. Because Florida is trash, but that's a huge rivalry. There's more emotions in that game. Did anyone think that the Iron Bowl was going to come down to a last-second play or 4th and 31? No, they didn't. But that's what happens in rivalry games. All that is off the table. Florida State rolls in this game big.
I'm definitely picking a little bit off emotions. I know that Florida State's
I just wanted to call you out on your own podcast.
I know that Florida State's defense, I mean, they're the best in the ACC. They only average, they allow 16.8 points per game.
Yeah.
I think Jack Plummer is going to get it done. I hope he does, and I'm definitely picking on emotions.
Well, he's about to do the same thing.
Hold on now. You hadn't hurt me yet. So you mentioned this is Louisville's first ACC championship game. I wonder what kind of role that plays mentally because they've never been into this type of game before.
Yeah, good point.
And so you wonder where their head is at, and they could be overlooking Florida State for a little bit by the way they perform.
Overlooking it to go to where?
Well, I mean, just overlooking Florida State as a whole because of the way they played against Florida, the injury.
Yeah.
I think Florida State's running back Trey Benson is the difference maker here. It was last week against Florida. I think Florida State being able to run the ball will play a huge factor, and I like the Seminoles here.
Yeah.
I was thinking about
he changed his mind.
I was thinking about picking Louisville, but I don't. After last week,
then you got to put them in the playoffs, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So
right.
Yeah. So
I put the pressure on him, didn't I?
Yeah, you
after I called you out, he totally just changed his pick.
He folded. He folded.
That's fine.
Maybe
I have that type of influence on Bryant, so it's all good.
Maybe so, but I like the Seminoles here. I don't see enough from Louisville to make me think otherwise.
I agree.
Okay, well now going into our next matchup, we have the Big Ten championship game, and obviously number 17 Iowa playing against
Are you
number
gonna pick
3.
with emotion on this one?
I'm
too?
not picking. Obviously, I hate Michigan, and I despise them so much. Last week, I mean, kudos to Michigan. It was a great game. As pissed off as I am, Michigan played a great.
Can you say that on the podcast?
But as mad as I am, Michigan played a great game.
Yeah.
They really, I mean, and we just couldn't get anything done. Ohio, I mean, it was a close game, came down to the wire. McCord threw a pick at the end. It is what it is. But looking at this matchup, obviously, big matchup for Kirk Ferentz in Iowa. But I mean, yes, Iowa has a top 10 defense in the nation, but they also have the least productive offense.
And they also play in the Big Ten.
And they do play in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're looking at a Michigan team coming off a huge win over Ohio State, obviously. 3rd straight win against Ohio State. Now this will be their 3rd straight Big Ten championship game. First game with Harbaugh back since the last 4 weeks. And I mean, looking at it from that perspective, I mean, and the spread is 22.5 on this game, favored for Michigan.
Wow, is that really what it is?
22.5 favored.
Wow.
Yeah, and
That's intense.
It's very crazy. And I mean, the last time Michigan played Iowa in the Big Ten championship was 2 years ago, and Michigan won 42-3. And I could see it being just like that again.
Yeah.
Especially with Deacon Hill at quarterback. He's 260 pounds. Nothing against him, but I watched him play last week against Nebraska, and it was ugly. So I've got Michigan on top.
I agree with everything that you're saying. I like Michigan in this game, and I don't think that the win over Ohio State is some big emotional high they have to come down from. I think they expected to win that game. I'm not saying that it was a hands down they were going to beat the Buckeyes no matter what, not try to diss on your team or anything, but I think that they went in with the confidence of we're going to win this game, we're going to take care of business and remain undefeated. And so I think that Michigan wins this game handily. I don't think it's a problem.
Michigan all year, they're with Jim Harbaugh or without Jim Harbaugh for half of the season. They have a legitimate case to be the top seed in the playoff. I think it still ends up probably being Georgia, especially if they win this weekend. But Michigan has made their case that they're one of the best teams in the nation, regardless of their schedule, and that includes the win over Ohio State.
Yeah.
And they're just so strong up front. I mean, they're built like an SEC team. They're strong up front. They can run the ball. They can throw it when they need to, and they play great defense. Iowa's just not balanced enough. If Iowa had even just average offense, I would take at least Iowa to cover. But they're not balanced enough. I don't think. Yes, defense wins championships, but not without a okay offense. So I'm taking the Wolverines here big.
Smart.
It's just not enough balance to me.
I agree with you there.
Yeah, definitely not enough balance. I don't think Iowa stands a chance. I mean, I was there at the Big Ten championship 2 years ago when it was Iowa versus Michigan, and I was wearing all my Ohio State stuff.
Did you go to that game expecting it to be wow.
I got the tickets at the very beginning. I got the tickets at the very beginning of the season. Bryant knows the story. I couldn't sell them because it was obviously 2 weeks, like a week before the game, and I tried to sell them. And on Ticketmaster, you have to be like a verified seller for like, you have to go through like a 2-week process to get verified.
I would have posted on Facebook.
And I was not able to sell them. And I was mad because when I got the tickets, they were like $30 a piece. And then come the game, since it was Michigan's first Big Ten
you probably could have made
championship,
tons of money.
Yeah, they were
off
like
of it.
$300 a ticket at that point. And I was like, this sucks. I ended up
So
going
you
anyway.
went there wearing, you were that guy?
I was
wearing
that guy.
all Ohio State
I was that
stuff?
guy.
Wow.
Yep, I was
Wow,
that guy.
Josh. I mean, we can still be
I was
friends
that
after
guy.
this.
And I went with my Notre Dame friends, and they weren't like Notre Dame.
No,
stuff.
I
I'm
grew
like,
up a
right,
Notre
this-
Dame fan.
I'm like, this
So
is,
that's y'all are all a mess. That's
it was
hilarious.
it was ridiculous, but yeah. But so now going into our second to last game of the slate, we had this game could be our last game of the slate. Obviously, we were doing that for certain reasons because Bryant being a Bama fan, but this game
At least he doesn't hide it.
Yeah, exactly.
Neither one of y'all.
But Pac-12 championship game, we've got number 6 Oregon taking on number 4 Washington, and this is a big game. This is a rematch game.
It's huge.
These two teams faced each other 6-7 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Oregon has won 6 straight since that loss by 3, which Oregon could have forced overtime. Obviously, their kicker missed that go-ahead kick to send it to overtime. And one of my big key points that I have for this game is since that game, Oregon's won 6 straight with a point differential of 26 points. And so they've been dominating since that game. Obviously, Bo Nix kind of up there for the Heisman candidate.
Kind of up there. He's the favorite right now.
It's debatable.
He's the favorite.
I think he is the favorite. Obviously, he's leading all of college football in passing yards.
Yeah.
He's definitely up there. And then also another note, too, Bo Nix has finished the regular season with 4 straight 360-yard passing performances and over 16 touchdowns in the last 4 games. That's huge. And you look, Washington hasn't beat a team by double digits since September 23rd. That's the big point for me. I can't remember who they played then, but it's
those are good numbers. Those are good numbers.
Yeah, and it's like you've got to look the last few weeks, especially for Washington. In the last 2 games, they've won by a total of 5 points.
Yeah.
And in the last 5-6 games, they've barely won by 10, and it's every game has been close, and it's came down to Michael Penix getting a game-winning drive to win the game, and that's exactly what he did against Oregon, but that was in Seattle. This game's at a neutral site in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. I think that Oregon comes out on top. They get the revenge. Oregon's a much better team than they were 6 weeks ago, and I think Bo Nix has a game kind of pleading his Heisman cause too. So
this is kind of what the committee does not want to happen. Like the chaos scenario where you have to choose between Oregon and Texas, and then potentially Bama, and then an undefeated FSU. Well, but
I mean, don't forget about Washington. I mean, if
Well,
they
that's
win,
what I'm saying.
you're gonna pick between pretty much one of these.
if Washington wins, it's a no-brainer. Washington's in. But if Oregon wins, then it kind of creates a decision-making for the committee. Ever since that game against the first game between these two, Oregon has seemed to only gotten better and play, ridiculous football. Bo Nix, and I've said it multiple times this year, I've loved his transformation from his days at Auburn to what he's done now at Oregon. I hope he's down here in Mobile for the Senior Bowl.
Me too.
And his story is amazing, and even coming from a Bama fan, I like his I like how he plays now. Washington, I've also liked Washington. Michael Penix's story has been awesome, going from Indiana. This game really has all on the line here. Heisman hopes, playoff hopes, but I'm going with the Ducks here just because I feel like Oregon right now is the better football team, and I think Dan Lanning will learn from his mistakes in the first game.
I think he has.
And he'll take that into this game, and I think the Ducks will come out on top.
Yeah.
Now, do they still make the playoff? I don't know. I mean, it'll definitely be interesting to see, but I like the Ducks here, and I hope Dan Lanning is the next coach at Alabama.
Well, I think y'all both make really, really good points. And one thing I can say about Bo Nix is that I covered him in high school when they won a state title, and that guy, he just has that it factor. And when he was at Auburn was a disaster.
Yeah.
Okay, it was like fitting a square peg in a peg in a round hole. It just wasn't going to work. Okay, and it doesn't matter what his dad did. It doesn't matter the history of the Knicks name. Everyone wanted to see it work. It just wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
All right. Brian Harsin was a complete mess. Gus had a bunch of crap going on just in terms of pressure and things. And Bo still won an Iron Bowl. He did really some good things. He just couldn't be himself. He grew up a little bit. The dude got married. He moved out west. It's just like things just started to come together for Bo. And I think all of that matters when you go into a conference title game like this. You need to have somebody who is your leader, who is going to stay completely consistent regardless of what's going on in the game, because you just never know. I mean, this is 4 quarters of football. There's lots of highs and lows in a conference championship game, especially when it's a rematch like this one. I'm going to go with Oregon as well. I don't think that necessarily puts them in the playoffs. I know we'll get to this because I think strength of schedule is going to be a concern for the committee and just for everybody involved. However, I would love to see Bo Nix go play for a national title and be in the, and I think that he has deserved it.
I think he deserves it too, without no doubt
and,
about it.
Or not just Nix, but Oregon in general.
Well, there's a quarterback in Baton Rouge that has challenged him for Jay Daniels. I mean, even though LSU's a 3-loss team.
No, not even though nothing. I mean, I'm not saying that doesn't matter, but it certainly matters. I mean, like, right?
I think, yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at, you have a team that's playing for a conference title and potential playoff situation.
I think Bo Nix definitely has the edge. And as much as
there's a reason the voting, which I'm a Heisman voter this year, first time ever. There's a reason that the voting happens when it happens, okay?
Yeah.
Because these games matter. I mean, you look at what happened with Tua in the SEC title game when he got hurt and Hurts came in. I mean, the guy didn't win it, okay? And there were a lot of folks that were saying they should have. And so you have to just look at how the conference championship games play a role, because they do.
Yeah.
Period. End of discussion. Where the team is at. Stats matter, okay? But that was more like in like the Lamar Jackson days and guys like that, okay? But nowadays, where you are in relation to the conference and going to the playoffs plays a huge role. In my opinion, it's not just a numbers game as much as people want to think it is, maybe as it was.
I think Bo Nix deserves it more than Jane Daniels, too. It's just there's a lot of people out there just because of how Jane Daniels has played still.
I mean, the guy deserves to be there. I mean, there's no doubt he deserves to be in the
Marvin Harrison
conversation.
Jr. the Heisman. No, that's an emotion. I wish he would get it, but I know he's not going to. He might be a finalist. But, yeah, sorry. Letting emotions
It's okay.
kind of
It's
creep
okay.
in,
It's okay.
But going into our last game, obviously, now going back to the SEC, and I mean, this is a big game.
Yeah.
We all know what this game is. Number 8 Alabama playing number 1 Georgia.
Ryan's so nervous just talking, like thinking about it.
He is nervous.
He's like his body language.
He doesn't know what to say because he already told me before the show that he was going to go with his reverse psychology that has worked every once in a while. But
It's worked every week I've done it.
Okay.
But I mean, obviously, big game this week. We've got Bama coming off the huge 4th and 31 prayer that they got answered last week in Jordan-Hare. And Georgia, who's won 29 straight games, looking to make it 30 and potentially three-peat the national championship, which hasn't happened since what? Wasn't it like Minnesota in the 30s?
In the 30s.
Yeah,
in the
1930s. Minnesota was the last team to do it. So Kirby's looking to make history here. And obviously, Georgia's going into this game not like it's like they are going into this game to win this game, and they're definitely going to be prepared. And obviously, Alabama's going to be prepared too. They're coached by Nick Saban, like one of the greatest coaches of all time, if not the greatest coach of all time. And, dude, I really don't know where I want to go with this game because obviously Milroe has progressed so much this year. Brian and I talked about it at the very beginning of the year, like, oh, what's going on with Milroe? And he has progressed so much as a passer. Obviously, last week said he wants the Heisman. I don't think that's happened. And I don't
that
think
was just an emotional moment. He even said it.
He said that. Yeah.
That's
fine. Listen, after that, I'd probably be saying that too.
If
I threw that pass, I'd be saying give me the
seriously.
Heisman. Yeah.
But I mean, and this is a game where Brock Bowers potentially, more than likely, back.
He's going to play.
And
that dude's playing. There ain't no doubt.
I think that's a big game changer.
Now, Lad McConkey's
it's huge.
Huge game changer. Yeah, Lad McConkey's out. But I mean, the thing that it boils down to for me, I think Milroe's going to have a phenomenal game. For me, it's Carson Beck because Carson Beck's he's been good all year. Don't get me wrong. But I think this is obviously the biggest game of his career thus far, and it comes down to how he plays as a quarterback. And I think he gets it done. And I think he beats Bama, and they keep their playoff hopes alive. They go in, they're undefeated, number 1 seed going to the playoff, and I think Kirby's looking for a three-peat at the national championship.
So this game absolutely comes down to the trenches, and people are comparing it to 2 years ago when Alabama had Bryce Young, and they won against Auburn in 4 overtimes and another miracle finish, and then everybody's saying Bama's going to lose going into this one. They're going to get boat raced. I think it's different because Kirby still had not gotten that hump off his back yet. That was like the thorn in his side.
Totally agree with
then they finally won the national championship. They got revenge from the SEC title game, and it's like, and since then it seemed like it was like just a huge weight off Kirby's shoulders. Finally came off, and so he can go into this game a little bit more freely, and he has the better team. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. To me, it comes down to Bama's defensive line. Georgia has only given up 10 sacks all year. 8 of them have been on Carson Beck. 2 of them have been on the other backup quarterbacks when they're up by a lot. They have not let anybody touch Carson Beck. And so can Bama's defensive line, the front 7, who's been phenomenal all year, can they be the difference maker and get to Carson Beck, make him uncomfortable? And can they, for the love of God, can they cover Brock Bowers? Like, I've seen no team be able to do it yet.
That was the difference for Auburn. That was the difference for Auburn.
The difference for Tennessee too. Like
Yeah.
it was, like they could not. Like when he's on the field, it takes a lot of.
Yeah, the dude's incredible.
Like he takes so much attention.
Who are you picking?
I'm picking Georgia. I don't see it here. I think it's a tall task.
Yeah.
Georgia wins their 30th straight. I hate to say it, but
you're brain on that reverse psychology right
He's
now.
trying. He's trying. You guys, listen. I think
I
both
want
y'all.
Bama to win. I want Bama to win.
I know.
But
I mean, look, I want Alabama to win. I mean, of course I want, because I think that Nick Saban's time, if it isn't now, it's not long from now. Okay,
Yeah.
and not just for an age thing, but there's just a lot of differences that we're seeing in Coach Saban, right? I mean, he
Yeah.
is more appreciative of wins. He's more emotional in post-game interviews. You're starting to see. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Alabama were to go win the national title, if he were to say, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead and hang it up." Now, does that mean that he's always going to let whatever the outcome of their season going to be determine when he retires? Not necessarily, but I think that it certainly plays a role.
Yeah.
You could see that. Did you see what his reaction was when Milroe connected with Bond on that play?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy looked exactly like he looked when Tua Tagovailoa won national title in overtime against Georgia.
Yeah.
That was the same reaction, but the stakes were not as high when it comes to the games. And so I think he is like grateful for every single week at this point, because I think that
seems
time
like he's
is coming.
taking in the moment more.
Correct. So like I would love to see Alabama win the game. I don't think that they're going to. I think that it's going to be Georgia. I think it's going to be like a 28-24 type of game or 27-21 type of game. That'll be close.
I feel like Bowers makes a play late. That's my
Yeah,
opinion.
and I just think that Georgia, and you brought up a perfect point, and one that I believed in so deeply 2 years ago. Kirby could not win the big game. He hadn't won the big game. He just couldn't get over that hump. Not only has he gotten over that hump, he has thrived,
Yes.
right? And Georgia is rolling under this guy. They have the recruits that they want. They have NIL that they want. They have the winning. Everything has come to just like it did for Nick Saban in the height of the Saban era, right? And we're just seeing college football in the landscape change. We're seeing more parity. We're seeing things change. Georgia is that team right now. They are the team to beat, and until they aren't the team to beat, it's hard to pick against them.
Yeah, I would agree.
Now Georgia is the line opened up at 3. It's gone up to 6. Georgia's a 6-point favorite.
They are?
Yeah, this is the big this
I
is
didn't
the
realize it was
biggest
6 points. That's a lot.
Yeah.
this is the biggest
Vegas knows something.
Yeah,
this is the biggest underdog Saban has been in a type of game like this, I think, in his entire era, probably since the first SEC Championship game they competed in against Florida in 2008. But that's a huge number. I still think Alabama covers, but I don't see Georgia getting beat. I just don't see Georgia getting beat.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, and I was upset. Not that I was upset. I was happy when the first college football playoff rankings came out and Ohio State was at 1, but I was like, there was no reason for Ohio State to be able to jump Georgia.
Yeah.
Like, it's like they're number 1 until they're beaten, and obviously it hasn't happened yet. And don't see it happening this week. So,
So now that's we picked the games. This is the last year of the 14 playoff. Next year we won't be debating.
Wish we had it this year, because then we could see all these teams that are like. I mean, this was the year for it to start, and of course, on the heels of it happening, like we're seeing like all of this go down the way that it does.
And I've talked to numerous people, friends, like this is the last year we'll be debating it. Next year, this game won't matter as much. Pac-12 championship game won't matter as much, except when it comes to seeding. Like the first 4 seeds will have a bye. Then the other top like 7 or the first 8, I think, will like 5 through 8 will have a home game. So that's kind of where the stakes will be at next year. But like this game, even if Alabama loses, they're in. Whether it's
the same with like Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Michigan.
All the teams we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
I mean, all the ones in the Power 5, and then of course you look at who the Group 5 champ is and all of that. So Tulane in this case, but. I mean, all of these teams would be in the playoffs. So it also it makes it more fun, but it also we don't get to have these conversations, right? Because the conversations aren't going to be anymore. Oh, who's going to be upset and who's going to be left out? I mean, whoever's going to be 13 or 14 at that point is going to be all ticked off. But at the end of the day, like, listen, you probably have 2 losses. You don't belong in. You don't belong in.
Well, I mean,
anyway,
people complain even in basketball. There's a field of 68.
Oh yeah, and who's on the bubble and who doesn't get in and who's
there's
in?
a field of 68, and people still complain.
Yeah, they had to up it by 60 from another 4 teams just because people were so ridiculous. The playing games, by the way, let me just have a really quick moment. playing games need to end in that. I mean, I cannot stand it, man.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, it's
kinda
fun to
ridiculous.
watch it, because it kind of kicks off basketball, but like
But-
it's unnecessary.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is
if you
very
can't figure it out
unnecessary.
with 64, just
And
figure
those
it out.
first 4 out aren't going to get anywhere close. You know what I'm saying?
I
You're
think
not-
well, I think one of them made it to the Sweet 16 once though.
I think they did, but it's
Yeah.
like
So
it's
San
very
Diego
unlikely.
State-
that's
Yeah.
a lot of games to
San
win.
Diego State was one of those play-in games, and they beat Alabama and made it to the final. They made it to the championship game.
Hey, you know who also beat Alabama? Ohio State last week. So
Yeah, they did.
They did.
But they beat Oregon. So
Who even cares about basketball until one conference play begins and football is
Yeah,
over?
yeah,
Okay,
we're on a football
talk to me about
podcast.
basketball sometime in like the middle of January because this is totally
this
unnecessary.
is a football podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but going into this college football, I mean, at least for me, going into our college football playoff rankings, I think I can easily say, and I think most of the country can say, Michigan, well, Georgia, Michigan are 1 and 2, automatic. I think that's automatic lock.
Should they win? Then
Yes,
yes, yeah,
automatic lock.
no doubt. But I also think that Florida State wins. They got to be the 3.
Yeah, easily,
You have
easily.
undefeated teams. They're
Yeah.
the 3. Washington wins. They're the 4. All
Yeah.
right. But if not, if it goes the way that we've all said, okay,
Yeah.
then we're looking at is it Oregon or is it Texas?
And I think it's kind of easy because Texas went on the road. They on to a top 10 Alabama team who probably won't be top 10 at the end of the weekend, but it's still a huge win to go
I
on.
disagree with you entirely. Because here's the deal. If Oregon is in consideration, that means that they beat a team that already had beaten them and in a conference championship game. Okay, I mean, like I get what Texas has done, and I'm not trying to disrespect that. Okay, but the Big 12 and the Pac-12, when it comes to, I mean, I'm sure the strength of schedule, the numbers do differentiate,
Yeah.
whatever. Just throw that out of the water. Okay,
Yeah.
they want to see, in their heart of hearts, in my opinion, they want to see Oregon in this game. Okay, I think
so,
the committee,
too.
I think the
Yeah.
committee, I think they let their personal bias play a
Yeah.
role. I think that they put Oregon in over Texas because
I
you have
would
to think
say
about
so.
Oregon is now going to beat probably handily. It's going to matter how these games play out as well. Expect both teams to put the pedal to the metal if they can in the fourth quarter. They want to
Yeah.
show the committee, hey, we belong. Because
Yeah.
we're a one-loss team. We need to belong. If Oregon beats Washington, I think Oregon is the 4.
I think Oregon's the 4 too, automatically. I mean, we'll see.
I got Georgia, Michigan, FSU, and Texas. I just think that win over Alabama on the road, just for some reason, it carries a little bit more weight. And then you add the strength of record, you add the strength of schedule. Yes, Texas lost to Oklahoma, but I mean, they've shown, I don't know. It's going to be tough for the committee to choose.
Oh, there ain't no doubt about that.
The brand that Texas is, not only would you think
the brand that Oregon is. I mean,
Well,
talk
that's what I'm saying.
about the 2 programs in their brand. I mean, those are the 2 programs.
Yeah, I mean,
and all
yeah.
of college football, talk about
Well,
brand, and Michigan's one of them
you
too.
can
But
also
those
make
are
that case for, and there's a lot of people saying out there that they could leave Florida State out. Now, I don't think they do. I don't
an
think they do.
undefeated Florida State.
I-
No
there's-
way.
I don't think
no
they
way.
do.
There's
They
no-
wouldn't.
But
They
there
wouldn't.
is chatter out there that just if
Oh,
Texas,
I mean, there's a lot of
if
chatter,
Florida
but-
State loses,
Yeah,
then you've
if
got
Florida
Georgia,
State loses,
Michigan. Then
it
say
makes it
Oregon
easy.
wins. Does Oregon get 3 and then Texas 4, or do you think Bama?
I think the
What if Alabama beats Georgia? Then
Yeah.
what? You leave a
leave
team
it.
that had 29 straight in back-to-back national titles who lost to Bama in the SEC title game, because at that
Yeah.
point what you're doing is, in my opinion, you are using a conference championship game against a team, and that's an extra game, right?
Yeah.
Nick Saban
Yeah.
made this point, if y'all remember, back when they didn't win it, or at least he tried to, is you're going to penalize a team for playing an extra game, and they're talking about Georgia
Yeah.
now, if they go and they lose to Alabama.
Yeah.
So Georgia's a
I don't-
one-loss team.
Georgia's
Do
not
they-
left out. Georgia's
They're-
not
I
left
just don't
out.
see it.
And
I just
the
don't
thing-
see how
the
you leave
playoff
Georgia
committee has
out.
so much.
But would they put Georgia in and leave Bama out?
No, I think they're.
No,
I think they're
no,
both
it's
in.
a-
Bama or to
I think they're
win.
both in.
But how much does the head-to-head matter?
I agree. So
I'm glad we're not in the meetings. I'll say that.
that's what I'm saying. Like I'm glad
we
I'm
get
not
paid
the-
to do this, or at least I do, but we don't have to do the. We don't have to actually be in the
But
committee
sit
room.
there and-
But like, it's the thing to me though is like, I don't see how the SEC gets left out. Even if Georgia beats Bama, I don't
The
think.
SEC is not getting left
I
out.
don't think
It's
they
just-
will.
they're not getting
They're
left
not.
out.
I don't
No.
think
This is
they
the best
want the
conference in
SEC
college
left
football.
out.
But if Bama wins, y'all are both in. With the SEC bias we've seen in, I mean, not last year. Last year there was Big Ten bias, but years before that, I think there's always been SEC
If
bias.
Bama
but-
wins, it's gonna be crazy because
Right.
there's gonna be some upset folks. Because if
Yes.
Georgia and Alabama are
Get
in
in.
this playoff, and you're talking about two conferences being completely left out, people are going to riot in the streets.
Yeah, it is
It
going
probably
to
will,
be.
especially
They're
like
At the same
They're-
time, though, I really hope Georgia still pulls off the dub, and then Ohio State can somehow play Bama in a bowl
He
game.
is literally.
Ohio State was
okay.
Bama in a bowl game. In a bowl game. Now,
Ohio
I
State
wish
still
Ohio
I
State.
thought you were talking about Ohio State being in consideration. I'm like,
I wish Ohio State get him, but I know it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
We don't
that-
deserve it either
yeah.
way.
Well,
We
see,
don't deserve it
the
either
college
way.
football playoff rankings this week will tell a lot about where their head is at.
No, it tells a lot about nothing, bro. I've seen them change week to week. It happens all. No disrespect.
Well-
It happens all the time. They want to say that it's supposed to be a new slate every single week. That is a lie.
Yeah.
Bro, it is not. They totally try to set up what's going to be the easiest
Yeah.
thing for them the next
Well,
week.
the thing for me is where do they put Ohio State? Because I don't think, and we talked about this, a couple of nights ago.
I think they put them under Alabama. I think
They
they bump
should.
everybody up, and now they go under Alabama.
I think they should, but in the AP poll and the coaches poll, which I know doesn't have any
You're right. Yeah.
They don't have any correlation, or
They don't, but
shouldn't.
sometimes it does.
They shouldn't
So-
have any correlation to the playoff rankings. They put Ohio State still ahead of Bama and Texas. So I don't know.
Well,
the
because
thing
you
is,
have to think about the loss to Michigan. I mean,
It's the number 2
that's
team
a
in the
dominant
country,
program.
but-
I mean, yeah.
But you're also missing out on a conference championship game. That's the other thing.
At the
So
end of
it's
the
like-
day, if the team is not in the top 4, they don't care where they are after that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter. I mean, nothing against the
Yeah.
Buckeyes
No,
playing
no,
Bama
yeah,
and
yeah.
a big bowl game or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's playoff or bust.
Yeah.
And Nick Saban said that when the playoff began was, if you're not a top 4 team,
Yep.
they literally don't care
Nope.
where they go at that point. If you're 5 and below, sayonara until next year.
We're actually kind of hoping if Bama and Ohio State get left out of the playoff, we're actually kind of hoping they get in a bowl game together.
And then we can go. No, I'm just kidding. I would love that. But because everyone now is saying Ohio State's going to play Louisville. I don't want
they
to
have
play
Bama
Louisville in a
projected
bowl
to play
game.
Tulane in the Peach Bowl, which
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it's going to be fun. Guys,
but-
thank you.
Yeah, but we can't thank Simone Eli enough for coming on
Thank
for
you,
our
guys.
Week 14 Conference Championship Pick'em segment. And, I mean, hit that like button, subscribe, comment below.
And we'll see how everything shakes out.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's coming up, so
We'll see you next week to discuss everything, the playoffs and everything. So.
toodles.
Bye.